El orden, pero pues habrá oportunidad de hacer preguntas. Y yo quisiera empezar por lo siguiente. Esta es una película espectacular. La vimos en 1959 y nadie podía creer lo que se estaba haciendo. Ahora vemos estas carreras con las carrozas y los caballos y sabemos que se utilizaron los menos efectos especiales posibles, que lo hicieron ustedes. Que muchas de estas escenas las vivieron ustedes en carne propia y fue todo un tema. ¿Tanto así? Que me encantaría preguntarle tanto a Roma como productora qué implicó eso, a los señores, para empezar a hacer esta película con los menos efectos especiales posibles. ¿Por qué y cómo fue la experiencia? Bienvenidos.
Well, as a producer, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, to say the least, to have our actors, they trained very, very hard. But to put them out there on the chariots was exciting and terrifying. The day that we started the horse race, and the character of Pontius Pilate drops the kerchief and the rock dropped, and those horses came out through the gates. It was one of the most exciting days on the set for everybody. But we were relieved a few months later when the sequence finished that everybody was safe and that no horses had been injured at all during filming.
¿Qué tal ustedes, los señores que lo vivieron, los actores? Ahora sí que empezaron una escena con diciendo me deberías haber matado, como vimos ya en el tráiler, y de ahí salir, ¿cómo fue la experiencia?
It was amazing because Timur, our wonderful director, said to me and Toby very early on that if people are going to enjoy this retelling of the story, we have to be in it. We have to be on those chariots. We have to be with those horses. And you know, with an audience today which is so submerged in so much CGI and special effects, in a film like this, which is such a true character piece, as soon as you start using too many special effects, it pulls you straight out of the story, takes you away from the characters. So me and Toby, we trained tirelessly for months, just so we could be up there on those chariots, and every time you see us with those horses, that's us with those horses. And it only added to it, because I think when you're going around the track with those horses, sometimes with 32 horses going around the arena, it's as close to death as you'll probably get. It's quite an experience to me. I really like microphones not on. Oh, it isn't. There's nothing like being pulled by those horses.
Bueno, no hay nada que se sienta que se compare con esa experiencia que nos vayan jalando los cuatro caballos.
It was an incredible experience. Yeah, as Jack said, all of us have been in chariot races, so we train very hard.
Tuvimos que entrenar muchísimo, apenas si se podía ver cuando van cuatro caballos por delante que te van echando arena en la cara y voltear y gritarle. Es muy difícil, pero bien valió la pena.
Thank you very much. Ahora vamos a llevar las preguntas con todos ustedes. Como bien saben, cuando llegaron se les entregaron unas paletas para que las preguntas tengan un orden. Y vamos a empezar con multimedios. Adelante, Abelardo, por favor.
Offer mine again.
Hola. Welcome to Mexico.
Primero, en Spanish.
En una época donde pareciera que solo importan los superhéroes, que tiene Ben-Hur para el público, además de los antecedentes que ya sabemos de 1959 y esta gran producción, ¿con qué herramientas se va a defender, no en taquilla, en el gusto del público?
versión de ese clásico de Charles Huston
It was such an epic
de
race.
Huston, y es una versión nueva de lo que se versión
And so
159.
this is very competitive.
Igualmente
You
es
have the
algo
ability
de
to
gran
tell a story
competencia, tienes
as a
una
teenager, you're at
competitiva
home,
y podemos
the
contar
characters
la
at home.
historia.
You want to
Mi
prove
personaje
something,
es
you want to have stature,
un adolescente que empieza
how
a
those paths can
jugar, que
separate
quiere
from
demostrarse y
family.
además muestra cómo estos caminos pueden separarnos de nuestra familia. Es una historia hermosa, no es una historia necesariamente de ser el bueno o el malo o el héroe, y cada uno de nosotros tiene esa
And it's,
oportunidad.
adding on what Toby said, it's,
Igualmente,
the 59 version was a story about revenge.
sí era una
And
historia
this,
de
which is
venganza,
kind of beautiful, is
y
it's
esta
a
tiene algo
story
hermoso que
about hope
es
and redemption
una
and
historia
forgiveness.
sobre
And
redención y
in
esperanza
today's
y
world,
perdón.
this is a
Y
story
en el
that
mundo actual esto
was
es
written
una historia de
130
más
years
que
ago.
se escribió hace 130
Lou
años.
Wallace wrote this beautiful book, and the idea that we're still talking about it, let alone retelling it in such sort of imaginative, incredible, and creative ways, is just a sort of testament to the beautiful work that Lou Wallace did. And anyone who sees this version, will realize very quickly it's a very different retelling of this amazing story, and it's something that in today's world, like you said, about superheroes and prequels and sequels and all that kind of stuff, this is a beautiful character piece surrounded by amazing action, but at its heart it's a very beautiful story and something that we all sort of fell in love with. And, when you fall in love with a story, that you find the impetus to go and make that movie and do it the best you possibly can. We're really proud of that.
Y en ese contexto, y dándole un poco de seguimiento a la pregunta de Abelardo, a mí me encantaría preguntarle a Rodrigo, la presencia, porque además es una historia en los tiempos de Jesucristo, la presencia de Jesucristo y todo lo que su mensaje implica en la película de Ben-Hur, ¿qué agregarías a lo que dicen los hermanos en este sentido?
Buenos días. Yo lo voy a intentar contestar en español. Si no entienden algo desde mí, alguien me ayuda. La presencia de Jesús, lo que agrega todo. Te voy a decir la diferencia de personaje, creo, de Jesús en esa película, porque hay muchas comparaciones con la de los años 50, y que es natural, pero la idea del director de esa película es traer una figura de Jesucristo un poquito diferente de lo que estamos acostumbrados a ver, una idea de traer un Jesucristo un poco más humanizado, más cerca de la gente, más mezclado entre la gente, y naturalmente lo mismo Jesús, el Hijo de Dios, con las Escrituras, estamos respetando a todo, pero la idea es que podemos tener que Jesús sea más accesible. Creo que esa palabra puede traducir la idea del director en la película. Naturalmente, por los encuentros que Cristo tiene con Ben-Hur, la presencia de Jesús está en toda la historia, porque está adentro, está en el corazón, y Él lo trae durante toda su transformación, durante la película, hasta que al final, hay un cambio profundo, una transformación profunda. Pero claro, eso está directamente, creo, ligado a los encuentros que ha tenido con Jesús.
Gracias, Rodrigo. Ahora nos vamos con el periódico Reforma, que se encuentra por allá. Adelante, por favor, compañero.
Rodrigo said there's a lot of comparisons with the movie. What were your first thoughts when you're asked to be in the movie?
Well, like any movie, I think you're always sort of cautious when someone mentions, a role, because you're always looking for, a great part. And obviously, I'd seen the 59 version when I was a kid. I grew up watching that movie. I loved that movie. And when I heard they're making Ben-Hur, I saw that John Ridley his name was on it, and he is a horror writer. And then I read it and I realized, wow, this is something very new, fresh, new telling to a new audience, because a lot of people haven't actually seen the 59 version. And in a way, this is bringing the story of Ben-Hur to a whole new audience, which I thought was beautiful. But I look at it very much as an art form, cinema. So, you know, if a painter was asked to paint a landscape and then you ask another painter to paint the exact same landscape, you're going to turn out with two very different paintings. And that can keep going, and that's sort of a beautiful thing. That the only reason to make the film would be if you have a reason to make it, if there was a great story and there was a reason to do it. So I felt very much when I read this one, of course, you know, you're looking for great characters, and I think you're hard pressed to find a better story with better characters than Ben-Hur. And if we're going to introduce that to a new audience, all the better for it, and you know, that's the great thing.
Slightly more selfishly, and I apologize for that, but the opportunity to drive those chariots and to learn that skill is something that's very hard to turn down and turn away. So yes, I perhaps should have thought about a film that already won 11 Oscars, but I didn't. I just looked for the opportunity, and the opportunity to work with Jack and get to work with such a fantastic cast and meet these new younger actors. Just a phenomenal time, and to shoot in Rome. Not to go on about how selfish I am, but it was a beautiful opportunity, and so hard to turn down.
Yo quisiera preguntarle a Roma, como productora, y ya fue mencionado por los compañeros en algún momento, pero sí retomar el reto de hacer una de las mejores películas en la historia del cine. Se habían visto versiones quizás para televisión, hubo una versión muda en algún momento, pero en este momento como productora, y además con una carrera impresionante que ya tienes como productora y como actriz, ¿qué te hace decidir a ti hacer Ben-Hur?
Well, we had, my husband Mark Burnett and I have been approached by MGM to get involved in it. It's a story that needs to be told now more than ever. I think that the story of forgiveness and reconciliation is needed in the world that we live in. And there's much talk, of course, of the 1959 movie. People, it's 55 years ago. It's time for a new telling of the story. A whole generation of people who don't even know what Ben-Hur was. We call them the Ben-Hur generation. And we were able to bring such, amazing performances. John Ridley, who won the Oscar for 12 Years a Slave, brought a whole new telling of the story. Our film is more in keeping with the original book, which was written by Lew Wallace in the 1880s, called Ben-Hur of the Christ. And there are very different plot points in this story. So just because you may have seen the Charlton Heston movie 55 years ago, you haven't seen this story. You haven't seen it told this way. And to be able to bring this sort of modernity. Remember, the 1959 film was also 3.5 hours long. It was so long it had an intermission. And I don't know that we, the modern audience, have the patience for that anymore. So this film is very exciting and dynamic. The chariot race, I know you will inhale when those horses come down that track, and you will not exhale until that race is finished. It is absolutely fantastic. So it is an action movie that really delivers in an exciting way, but it also carries through it this important message of forgiveness and reconciliation. And by the end of the film, from the early pre-screenings that we've done, people leave the theater very emotional. It's a beautiful picture.
Thank you, Roma. Ahora entregamos el micrófono a nuestros compañeros de la agencia AP, Associated Press. ¿Por dónde están?
Hi.
Gracias.
Welcome to Mexico. Yeah, I wanted to ask what was the main difference in style and storytelling
You already mentioned some of it, but you wanted to achieve in this version to make it update for new generations and also to show the story in a different light, because there are different versions that have been done, not only in like Yes, there was a silent movie version done in the 20s. There have been a couple of stage productions done. And I think the reason that people keep visiting the story is because it's such a great story. You have these two brothers. So in our film, they are young men who are raised together in the same family, the Ben-Hur family. Masala is the adopted brother. So they're raised, they're very close, they love each other. We get to see that at the beginning of the film. And then their life choices pull them apart, and it becomes this, you know, a story of heartache and hurt as this family is ripped apart. Anger moves in, desire for revenge, and you know, and of course at the end of the film, this opportunity to race. They compete together, and through the race, one brother will beat the other brother. Now, in the previous film, Masala dies. I don't want to give spoiler alerts here, but we have a different ending. So it's a more hopeful ending to the story. But I think in terms of filmmaking, much has changed since 1959. In terms of performances, I think that actors give much more naturalistic performances than was the style of that time. And I think that our editing style is much quicker and fast-paced. I think we just have different expectations as audience and different expectations as filmmakers. So this film really feels updated and textured, and you know, it feels very real. And our director, wonderful director Timur Bekmambetov, he studied the NASCAR driving, the Formula One driving, to really try to understand what it would feel like to be there. So particularly in the race, he had the GoPro cameras, he placed them in the wheels of the chariots, he had placed them everywhere between the ears of horses. I don't know if you guys had them on your bodies, but it was really to create that experience that you, the audience, are actually in that race, and it's very, very effective.
And you know, as Roma was saying that, it's so true. The '59 version, which, you know, once again I say it's beloved, and I love Charlton Heston's performance, as well as all the other many amazing performances. But back then in '59, it was very theatrical, it was very operatic. It was the first time we'd seen a film of that size, of that scale, and it was an experience. But it's so funny now, what we're doing is trying to almost go the complete opposite way, which was our relationship was very organic, something built from the ground up. So as actors in that, a lot was based actually between us, like left up to us, how we were going to sort of react to each other. Very much as well, like not just between us, but also with Jesus. For Judah, it's not Jesus Christ, it's a man who shows him kindness. So that's much more relatable, in a sense, for an audience, because it's putting across an amazing message, which is, you know, for Judah, you know, this guy comes into his life in the moment where he needs him most, when he's at his lowest, and he offers him water, and it's that simple act that in a way carries him through. And it's simple things like this. When I go to the movies, I go for an experience, and I go to lose myself and hopefully learn something. It's like if I see a film about a painter, I want to paint. If I want to see a film about writing, it makes me want to write. If you see this film, you know, if you're Christian, Catholic, Muslim, Islamic, it's not discriminating against, you know, it's about kindness, it's a story about forgiveness and hope. And it's the kind of reason why we go to the cinema, is for this experience, and, you know, hopefully take something away from it, and from a very natural, organic point of view.
Vamos ahora con Milenio. Adelante, Iván. Por allá.
La diferencia de la primera película, años se ha visto que hay una disminución de las creencias religiosas por las nuevas generaciones. Entonces, me gustaría saber si hay alguna especie de responsabilidad o de intención frente a ese grupo de personas que ya no creen en Jesucristo, por ejemplo, como tal.
Well, I certainly think that there's an opportunity through this film for people to feel closer to the experience of Jesus. The first time we see Jesus in the film, he comes in as a carpenter. He's working in the square in Jerusalem, and Judah and Esther are at the marketplace and they run into him. I think the beauty in that is for a whole audience. They may think he's just a guy in the marketplace, and it isn't until he speaks and the kind of things that he's saying, where he speaks of love and the importance of goodness, that I think the contemporary audience will really begin to realize that it is Jesus in the story. But there's something very profound happens in the story. If we follow along with the character of Judah Ben-Hur, he wins the race, and he's sure that in winning he will feel triumphant, but he only feels empty. He feels absolutely empty. And when he comes out onto the street, he runs into Jesus, who's carrying his cross. He has an encounter with Jesus that will change his life forever. And at the foot of the cross, he hears Jesus saying, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." And in that moment, his character understands that the only way he can move forward in his life is to forgive his brother. And it's an absolutely beautiful moment of transformation. And each of us, I think there's such an opportunity in that moment for us all to realize that a way forward is to love each other and to forgive each other. And whether you're a Christian or not, the essential thinking of Jesus' philosophy is a very powerful one. And, it's a very good one to live your life by.
Rodrigo, ¿te gustaría a ti comentar un poco esta pregunta?
Pues que Roma ya ha contestado todo. Es algo que es difícil de hablar de la importancia de la figura de Jesucristo, porque es obvia, independientemente de la religión. Yo creo que el hecho de que la figura de Jesús en esta película es un poquito más, como dice antes, accesible, esa es una forma de conexión con el espectador. Yo creo que eso también es intencional del director. Le gustaría intentar crear esa relación muy cerca entre el espectador y lo que está pasando en la pantalla. Por eso creo que sí, creo que es una forma de conectarse con algo que es muy humano, con sus enseñanzas, obviamente, que están ahí de una forma también muy humana, también a través de los ejemplos, no solo de las palabras. Eso fue una de las cosas que se quedó muy claro para mí, que creer en las enseñanzas solamente no basta, es necesario poner la palabra en la práctica. Entonces, eso sí creo que es un punto de conexión entre el espectador y el Jesús que está en la película, y todo el mensaje, naturalmente. Entonces, es inspirador, sin duda, y quizás puede ser una forma más moderna en ese sentido. No moderna de ser moderno porque es cool, es hip, nada que ver con eso, pero está más alineado, ¿se puede decir? Estoy creando palabras, pero está bien. Es temprano, perdón. Pero está más aligned con la forma que vivimos hoy. Eso es lo que estaba diciendo Roma, del lenguaje, de la narrativa. Hay un propósito en hacer eso. Estamos intentando dialogar con lo que vivimos, con el mundo de hoy. Es una forma como de relacionarse. Entonces, para contestar la pregunta, no sé si la contesté, pero creo que sí, creo que hay un valor muy grande y diferenciado de alguna manera. Por lo menos esa siempre fue
el intento.
Muchas gracias. Damos con nuestros compañeros de Radio Fórmula de Todo para la Mujer, por favor.
Buenos días, René Gómez de Telefórmula. Ahondando un poco más sobre este tema, Rodrigo, me gustaría saber o que nos explicaras más sobre cómo te preparaste para este personaje que, como tú dijiste, es muy importante para la religión. Y también tengo entendido que te encontraste con el Papa, o sea, te dio la bendición el Papa. Quisiera que nos comentaras sobre esa experiencia, y obviamente yo creo que te dio su punto de vista, y yo creo que la religión, ¿cómo crees que tome esta nueva figura de Jesús?
Bueno, voy a intentar resumir, porque mis amigos también quieren hablar. Porque hablar de un proceso de preparación para ese personaje es algo muy difícil de definir, de resumir, pero te voy a decir que empecé un proceso de investigación naturalmente por todos los lados, todo lo que tenía acceso. Entonces, desde de la literatura a las películas, a las pinturas, evangelios y por ahí, por todos los lados. Luego me di cuenta que el punto común de todas las referencias que estaba buscando era muy simple, muy claro y obvio, que era el corazón de Jesús. De todos los lados se tenía pelo negro o rubio, pero el corazón era siempre el punto de conexión, el corazón lleno de amor de Jesús, el amor incondicional. Y creo que un actor, un artista, lo que intenta hacer es una inmersión, es intentar habitar el cuerpo, el alma, el corazón del personaje. Tener la oportunidad de hacer eso con Jesucristo es un regalo incalculable para mi propia vida. Y eso fue lo que pasó, lo que intenté hacer, buscar adentro e intentar poner en práctica las enseñanzas. Porque nosotros sabemos, sí, es necesario amar al prójimo como a ti mismo. Sabemos lo que es el plan de las ideas, pero ¿cómo es en la práctica? De verdad, todos los días, todos los momentos. En el momento que está en el tráfico y uno te pone nervioso en lo que quieres pegarle o darle algo que es totalmente humano, ¿cómo transformar eso? ¿Cómo sinceramente, genuinamente, auténticamente, algo que sale de tu corazón que es de verdad? No puedo reaccionar así, puedo reaccionar, pues tengo que cambiar eso, tengo que, por ejemplo, dar la otra fase. ¿Cómo hacer eso? Luego, naturalmente, me deparé con las paredes gigantescas de mi propia humanidad y vi cómo es difícil, cómo eso es algo, pero es el camino. Y entonces lo que traté de hacer es intentar buscar dentro de mis limitaciones, como ser humano, pero intentar buscar ese lugar. Y te puedo decir que nunca fui tan feliz, nunca sentí eso, porque creé adentro de mí un espacio, una experiencia, una memoria que es difícil de describir. Nada que ver con, el tipo es un method actor y ahora piensa que es Jesucristo. No. Ni siquiera lo entendí y racionalmente no es así que yo funciono. Pero tenía que tratar de buscar eso adentro. Fue lo que traté de buscar. Pero estoy preparándome hasta hoy, aquí hablando contigo. Eso es algo que no llega. Y qué bueno que es así. Que es una estrada muy larga, que está siempre buscando, que es como un mantra, es algo que tienes que seguir haciéndolo. Y yo creo que la clave para la evolución del ser humano son las personas que le rodean, es la gente, es la interacción. Es ahora que estoy aquí intentando expresarme, decir lo que siento y aceptando las diferencias. Si miro a ti y no me gusta no es el caso, ¿ok? Me gusta, la camisa es muy linda, pero a decir que no me gusta, te voy a juzgar, te voy a decir hacer una cosa, no sé qué, es en todos los momentos, las pequeñas cosas de la vida que tiene que trabajar todo tiempo, para intentar vivir mejor y amar de verdad y ahí relacionarse mejor y buscar eso. Esa película trae un mensaje que yo creo que es uno de los más importantes, que es el perdón. Es perdón
Eso soy lo que yo, como yo siento. El perdón es el camino para el amor. Es la primera cosa, es la puerta. Es llegar en ese lugar de tener la condición de perdonar de verdad. Bueno, intenté resumir, claro que no voy a resumir. Yo puedo quedarme hablando y la pasión luego me agarra porque eso es algo muy apasionante. Pero ¿cuál es la otra pregunta? El encuentro con el Papa naturalmente fue algo sublime, único. Fueron, no sé, 8 segundos que parecía una eternidad. Es muy, muy fuerte. No fue nada programado. Roma nos ha invitado a ver al Papa hablar, porque lo hace creo que todas las semanas. Y estamos ahí con 1.000 millones de personas. Y solo para verlo, de lejos. Al final tenía una señora a mi lado que estaba sufriendo mucho, estaba muy tensa, muy sufrida y le gritaba. Y él vino a hablar con ella, estaba a mi lado. Y luego yo estaba al lado. Entonces traía la barba, traía el pelo, traía el corazón lleno de amor y intentando estar ahí. Lo miré y le dice algo en español, con mi pobre español, pero le dice, porque sé que él es argentino, le dice: le felicité por el trabajo. Como un profesional, le felicité con trabajo. Lo que estaba haciendo era muy lindo. Y luego me concedió la bendición y fue un momento especialmente simbólico, porque estaba haciendo el personaje de Jesucristo y eso no estaba programado. Entonces claro que para mí tiene un valor gigantesco. Bueno, basta.
We always say though that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous, and it was such a beautiful moment to see the Holy Father put his hands on Rodrigo's head and to bless him, and then Rodrigo still had many scenes left to play as Jesus, so I kept imagining with all the scenes he was playing, he brought the blessing through the movie. It will, will touch people's hearts. Our hope is that the movie will touch people's hearts.
Y además de eso, una película con unas escenas emotivas de acción, tiene absolutamente todo, y en ese sentido vamos con nuestros compañeros de Radio Fórmula. ¿Qué más quieren preguntar? ¿Por dónde más nos vamos, compañeros? ¿Dónde están?
De este lado, para el espacio de Javier Poza, justamente a lo largo de toda esta plática nos han comentado que la compasión es una característica fundamental para esta versión, pero esto realmente los toca a ustedes, es decir, ustedes piensan transmitir con esta película la compasión, pero ha empezado esta compasión con ustedes. Y segundo, realmente es un momento, es un llamado para hacer películas de otra forma, de una acción más entretenida para evitar la violencia, sobre todo que cada uno de ustedes ha tenido colaboraciones en películas que son un poco violentas a lo largo de su carrera artística.
Well, I think the time that this movie was set in 2,000 years ago was a very violent time in history, and the Roman regime in Jerusalem was especially violent. The Jews were really an oppressed people, and I think the movie, displays that. I think sometimes when you're trying to show moments of light, they're most effectively revealed by showing some darkness, so that you can understand the contrast. And this film reflects the times that it's set in, but ultimately it brings you through the grit and the grime into a place of hope and optimism.
Force, which is the Roman army, and power, which is Jesus. So that separation is very often misconstrued when you're younger, and you think that violence is very powerful. You believe it so because it's instant. If you take out a weapon, you get an instant reaction. And it's very hard to ask someone who has nothing to not try and search for that kind of what they believe to be power. But this is definitely a story that indicates the difference between power and force.
Bueno, esta es la última pregunta y antes de entregarla a nuestros compañeros, les recuerdo que hoy en la noche es la premier mundial de Ben-Hur en el Teatro Metropolitan. La película se va a estrenar en México el 16 de agosto, así que ya está a la vuelta de la esquina y los vamos a esperar a todos por allá. 19 de agosto, discúlpenme, 19 de agosto. Y bueno, le entregamos la última pregunta a nuestros compañeros de Atmósfera Magazine.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Al frente. Para Roma, hablas de renovación, de que es una película que debía renovarse, pero creo que hay muchísimas películas de esa época espectaculares, igual que Ben-Hur. ¿Qué tiene de especial Ben-Hur para haberla renovado, o qué otra película podría renovarse y ya dejarla en el baúl? Y para Jack, mencionas que has visto la película desde pequeño. ¿Qué le has aprendido a un actor como Charlton Heston?
Well, I think that the story of Ben-Hur is just such a marvelous story, and you know, we're talking about it. I know it was a great film. It was a beloved film, but I think that when audiences start seeing this film, the talk of the '59 film will stop. This is a film for 2016. It's a film for a new generation, and you know, we're really excited about telling this story and telling it in this way. And can I just tell you that we are thrilled that we are having the world premiere in Mexico City. We could have been anywhere, but we're here, and we're so excited and honored that we get to open this great film in your great city. So thank you for hosting us, and we're really, really happy to be here.
Charlton Heston, Charlton Heston was a man's man, very much in those days. The Ten Commandments, you know, you watch that, you watch Ben-Hur, you see, when you first meet Charlton in that movie, Chuck, you know, it's already this rivalry between he and Masala. It's this sort of way of making a movie then, but it sort of very much stays on that path throughout the performance. It's a man who's going through something, and the revenge story takes over, and it sort of sticks through that way to the very end. When we started up, we were very conscious that we wanted to show this relationship, true brothers, because to hate you have to love, you know, one doesn't go without the other, and there was a deep love between these two brothers, you know. And we, for Judah, he was a boy, he wasn't a man. When you first meet him, he's a very confused child, almost, who's trying to keep the peace, and by keeping the peace, he's not paying attention to what's actually going on in the world, which is quite reflective of life today, you know. And what we experience with Judah is a growth, and the growth goes, which most of us need. We need to go to rock bottom to experience the levity of actually bringing ourselves back up again. And I think with this version and with my performance, I was very aware of the transformation of a boy into a man. And the man part comes actually, funny enough, not through the race, not through the beating, because as Roma said earlier, that's when he feels at his absolute lowest, is when he's lost everything. Everything he loved, he's lost. You know, he thinks by beating his brother in this race, it's going to give you everything you ever wanted, but no, instead he finds himself completely empty. And we sort of found this moment on set with this rock, where where one of the Roman soldiers almost hits me, whips me on my back, and I'm with Jesus, and I pick up this rock, and he stops me and goes, "My life I give my own free will." And it stopped me from hitting the guard with the rock. But then I was with Timo on set, and I said, "I don't want to let go of the rock." And Timo said, "Don't let go of the rock. That's great. Hold on to the rock." And it became this whole sort of symbol that we hold so much on the rock. And then I got to the crucifixion, And there was a moment where we were like, oh, this is the moment you should let, this wasn't in the script, this was something that happened organically, naturally on set. And he lets go of the rock, and that was a symbol of everything we hold. All that hatred, all that sort of, that darkness that sort of cripples us internally. And there's so much hate and so much anger and so much fear in the world. And it's so easy and so simple to let go, to forgive. And there's that levity, that lightness that comes from it. And it's like that rock was a symbol of everything that was weighing him down. And by dropping that rock, suddenly he's able to forgive. He has that moment with Jesus. And I feel like that's sort of such a beautiful ending to a movie like this, because like the 59 version, it's a movie driven by hatred and anger and vengeance. And this is a beautiful ending to a movie where hopefully, sorry to go on, but when the world is in such an awful place and we're so sort of controlled by fear and hatred and anger, and it's nice to figure out that there's another way or another path, and this is very much a film that hopefully can set people free from themselves and that weight that's on them.
Y con esa nota nos despedimos, cerramos esta conferencia de prensa. Les agradecemos muchísimo a Roma, a Tobby, a Rodrigo, a Jack por estar aquí con nosotros. Thank you so much for being here in Mexico. We are very proud.